we are all set up here for episode 10. This is your boy Ethan, accompanied by Max. We are very excited now to hit double-digit episodes coming into this whole podcasting game. Today we're going to be taking a look at a little bit of NFL, some MLB, and then something good, something bad. So starting us off.
Triple digits on the way.
Yes, that's true. Starting us off here, we just have to go and struggle through this division. We are going to look at the AFC South today.
Yeah, certainly the one of the more bottom-dwelling divisions throughout the NFL. So bear with us today. We got to cover all our bases.
And I don't want to say specifically that we were avoiding doing this division, but we were avoiding doing this division. Yeah.
And guess what's next? The NFC South, which isn't much better.
So may have been poor planning leaving the last two divisions as stinkers, but
yeah.
So here we go. Let's look at this Titans team. So right off the rip, Tannehill and Henry, of course, now coming back in as the backfield for quite again another year.
And we don't even know if Derrick Henry will be there come this season. I mean, they've been talking all offseason, it seems like, finding a trade partner for him, but it's kind of difficult. Even though Derrick Henry's an elite running back, like, don't get me wrong, he's still at the top of the game. It's difficult to find a market for an aging back who isn't exactly at the beginning of his prime and doesn't have, he's a 30-year-old running back. There's not a lot of 30-year-old running backs you see continue to have production 2, 3, 4 years from now. And when you just look at the history of football in general, I mean, it's the most brutal position to play.
Mm-hmm. So obviously Henry provides some definitely well-needed production for them, and it's kind of their entire offense, as the other receiving room doesn't look very overwhelming. Obviously, you have Treylon Burks coming in for his second year. I know he obviously had a good start to the year, ran into a little bit of injuries, but I know he obviously had a good rookie season. Then you have Nick Westbrook, Ikine, and then Kyle Phillips, which I think probably is on the back half of the bottom 7 of the receiving core rooms in the NFL. Speaking on the Derrick Henry point, they did draft Ty J. Spears in the 3rd round just, to cover their bases in case Henry is gone or they decide to trade him or whatever it may be. I know just with how disposable running backs are, like Max said, it just creates for, just some extra depth in case they need it. The offensive line definitely takes a hit as well. They finally moved on from busting with the boys legend, Taylor Lewan.
I think 3 ACL tears later. It's probably the right time for that salary dump.
Yeah.
I like their first-round pick a lot, Peter Skoronski.
Yes.
I don't think he's going to play tackle for them because they signed Andre Dillard from the Eagles.
Yep.
It looks like he'll probably be slotted in at left guard for them. I mean, it's essentially a rebuilding team at this point.
Oh, 100%.
Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the NFL, so he's still going to win you some games. But I don't think you draft Will Levis with your first, second-round pick if you're not looking to at least retool your roster a little bit. They lost Nate Davis, probably their best guard, in the offseason of the Bills. Obviously, in what was already a pretty depleted receiving core, Robert Woods is gone. Treylon Burks didn't necessarily have a standout rookie year. Austin Hooper gone this season. There's not a lot of, I wouldn't even call them household names. There's not a lot of, hey, I know that guy names for, a regular football fan to even point to on their roster. Jeffrey Simmons is still an elite pass rusher and run stopper on their defense. But, outside of that, all they really have is an aging Kevin Byard. Christian Fulton's all right, I guess. I don't think they're going to be leaning on their defense to win them any games this season. No. But it's a bad division. You've got 4 games against the Texans and Colts, who might even be worse. So you never know what this team could end up doing, especially considering, we've seen Mike Vrabel make something out of nothing for the last 5 to 6 years, it feels like. And if they do end up holding on to Derrick Henry, he's won them a game or two come late November, early December. Mm-hmm. He carries that team through a lot of victories. So it's they at least have some sort of direction because a lot of their more reliable players, I feel like Taylor Lewan. Obviously, they traded A.J. Brown last offseason. Some of their better playmakers and just reliable assets are gone from this team, but they're just gonna have some figuring out to do because I wouldn't be shocked if any of their 3 guys in their QB room are starting come week 5.
Completely forgot about Will Levis. And then obviously Malik Willis. They're just going to be trying to figure it out this year.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It's a figure it out year. I don't think anybody's betting on this team to win a Super Bowl.
I think definitely, though, just with how Mike Vrabel and these Titans teams have been, they're just primed up to steal at least one game from the Jags this year.
No,
just how it is.
For sure.
That's just the Titans' identity. So
yeah, absolutely.
So now moving on, we're going to go look at the Indianapolis Colts. It is now it is now Anthony Richardson's team potentially,
or
Gardner Minshew,
or Sam Ehlinger,
the
Longhorn.
Now I think obviously the Colts had some departures. They had some injuries last year with Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, their O-line was pretty hurt and beat up throughout the entire year too.
Yeah,
I mean it was like watching a gazelle get dragged through the Serengeti by a giant lion, seeing Nick Foles play in December against some of the better defenses in the NFL. It was a bad watch for these Colts at the end of last year, if I'm being totally honest. So I like Anthony Richardson. To be completely fair, I don't think last year's, or I shouldn't even say last year, this past draft's quarterback class really had like a true standout number 1 guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, C.J. Stroud is probably the most proven, like, in the pocket, pro-style passer. Bryce Young gives you the best of both worlds. But then there's Anthony Richardson, who, for all intents and purposes, is an athletic freak and has unlimited potential. Mm-hmm. I mean, people talk about Justin Fields. We even talked about Justin Fields a few episodes ago. If he can figure out how to throw the ball downfield and at least be a competent passer, he's going to be an elite QB in the NFL just because of what he does on his legs. Anthony Richardson, bar none, is probably more athletic, faster, stronger, all the above compared to Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's like Cam Newton with Lamar Jackson speed when it really comes down to it. So I would like to see Gardner Minshew, who's proven himself as at least a decent backup in the NFL, maybe start the first 5, 6, 7 games this season. And if you're the Colts and you're sitting at 1-4, 2-5, whatever it might be, why not let Anthony Richardson go out there and at least prove what he's capable of so you've seen what you spent your first-round draft pick on? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have Jonathan Taylor, who you can rely on when he's healthy. When this O-line is healthy, they're an extremely competent and probably one of the best O-lines in the league, backed by Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. I mean, it's a great O-line when they're healthy. You have all the pieces you really need to for a young QB to kind of at least put himself out on the field and at least give you a fighting chance to win. So I like their direction moving forward, not only because they have a defense and an O-line and a running back to support a young QB, but because they don't really have any reason or any urgency to go out and win this division this year. I think it's a huge experimentation. Let's see what we've got with our guys type of year and move forward the next season based on what we see. Would you agree, or do you think there's maybe a little bit more urgency with a new head coach like Shane Steichen, who they stole from the Eagles?
Yeah, this is definitely, again, a feel-out year for them. A lot of young pieces. I would have liked to see them address a little bit more of the positions a little more. Obviously, they got Isaiah McKenzie from the Bills. They drafted Josh Downs. They try to do their due diligence with draft picks, but maybe getting a little bit of a free agent signing or a draft pick that's, of a little more talent would have been good. But then again, I agree with Max. What are you exactly trying to address? What are you trying to do this year? Obviously, they have running back Zach Moss. Don't mention that name in front of Max.
Yeah. Short story. My fantasy team was depleted going into the semifinals last year, and I picked up Zach Moss, who's getting the nod at RB1 for the Colts. This takes me back to my watching the Colts was brutal point.
Yeah.
I sat through an entire game of the Colts versus, I think it was the Saints, I want to say.
He had like 80 rushing yards.
He
but
had 80
not,
rushing yards, and I needed him to get 90.
Yeah,
and I
was just
lost.
not,
and we were out of a couple $100.
So I think skill positions in certain aspects is going to be an issue. I think this team's going to have a little bit of a struggle to pass the ball downfield. Minshew probably isn't the best with arm talent when you're throwing vertically. Obviously, you have Richardson, but there's going to be some growing pains there, obviously, just with the rookie. So I think it's just going to be interesting to see. I like their front seven a lot, to be fair.
No, for sure.
I think they got a good front seven.
The problem with them is there's injuries. I mean, their team's good enough to play 500 football if they can at least stay healthy throughout the majority of the season.
For sure.
But
okay.
Yeah.
So now
that might be all we got on the Colts.
Yeah, that's for sure. So now let's move into the third out of the fourth team we're covering, and that is the C.J. Stroud-led Texans. So it is now C.J. Stroud's team. They decided to go with him at number 2.
And I love that pick.
I think it's a great pick.
I liked him more than I liked probably Anthony Richardson the most, just because I didn't think there was a cut and dry number 1, like I said a few minutes ago. So I think when there's not that obvious answer, you play to potential, kind of like the Bills did with Josh Allen a few years ago. But C.J. Stroud is probably the best QB we've seen come out of Ohio State, I'd like to think, in the last decade.
And I will say, I really don't mind how the Texans have filled out this depth chart this year. I think they're going to be exciting.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
They're like, they had money to spend, and they spent it. Obviously, there's not like you can go out and get Travis Kelce or Justin Jefferson or anything like that. But they at least solidified their roster to the point where you're not just throwing C.J. Stroud out there with no options, no defensive support whatsoever. You know what I mean? It's like, too many times we see, and especially us as Browns fans, we see these rookie QBs who come into a terrible system, an organization that's pretty much directionless or doesn't really have the support to kind of make your guy who you've invested in succeed, and it just falls flat on his face and fails. But at least they've taken like kind of some type of step to bolster their roster to the point where you can't, like, if he's bad, then he's just bad. You can't really blame it on anything else. DeMeco Ryans is an extremely proven coordinator, somebody who I think will be a great head coach in the NFL. They obviously traded up to go and get
Will Anderson
as well, a guy who it seems like they really believe in. And the defense,
just solid.
The defense on paper actually isn't even that bad.
It really looks like it's a pretty good
for sure.
defense.
I think their secondary is underrated.
It
honestly.
is.
Derek Stingley, a top 5 pick last year. Shaq Griffin's been a solid corner for a while now. Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie are both very underrated at their position.
This Texans team is like they actually look pretty solid.
They don't look like the Texans.
That's
basically what you're
saying.
saying.
I really enjoy what they did too with the receiving room as well. Nico Collins obviously is younger. You have an older, proven Robert Woods who can be the veteran to this young locker room.
Yeah.
And John Mechie obviously overcoming cancer.
Not John Schultz. Dalton Schultz has been somebody who's been reliable for Dak Prescott for the last 3 seasons.
And he's just going to be there at all times. Damian Pierce had a fantastic year last year. You have a good backup in Devin Singletary to be a passing back for you. They have good backups, Davis Mills, Case Keenum. They really covered their bases extremely well, I think, for a look out of a team this year. And I think they're going to be pretty fun and entertaining to watch. Obviously, these young teams, and you have a number 2 overall quarterback coming in. It's worth a look and it's worth a watch because who doesn't like watching Sunday football? So
yeah,
I'm excited for this team.
I also like that he's drafted in a situation where you have an elite blindside tackle in Laramie Tunsil. Shaq Mason's been a really solid guard for a long time. And there's other pieces on the O-line like Titus Howard and all-time football name Juice Scruggs to give him a little bit of protection back there.
Yeah.
So all in all, I don't think you can knock this roster just because we know they're a bad team. But they're at least doing their best to help their guys succeed, and that's all you can really ask for if you're a Texans fan or if you're C.J. Stroud. And one other guy who we haven't even mentioned yet, Dameon Pierce, who had a great rookie campaign before he ultimately got hurt, and you had a 35-year-old Rex Burkhead out there going for 2 yards per carry. So he might come back next year and have a great season too. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the same page with you when it comes to the Texans. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they're set up nicely for the future.
I would say they're probably the team I'm most excited to watch in this division next year.
Yeah,
I think so
for
too.
sure.
So that moves us on to yet again another exciting team coming up with a bright future ahead of them, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are
love the Jags.
The odds-on favorite to win this division.
Jags team.
Yes, they now have Calvin Ridley after he served his full season suspension last year. He joins Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, who had outstanding years last year for the Jaguars. I think that probably has been a career year for both of them last year. Obviously, they had Evan Ingram. He worked out there with Jacksonville. I know there's some question marks with his hands and just overall being a tight end with the Giants, but he's found a new home in Jacksonville.
Completely resurged himself this past year.
I think this offense is explosive. I think this offense this year is going to be the ability to score 40 to 45 on you one game, and then could be some inconsistencies here or there, but I just think the explosiveness of this offense is for sure there. I could just see a stat cast of Zay Jones having 5 catches for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they win 43-27. I can just see it now. So,
do I have permission to go on a tangent?
100%.
The last time we saw Calvin Ridley play, he was a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Christian Kirk proved himself after getting out of what seems like
sticky situation.
What seems like a terrible organization, the Arizona Cardinals, was a top 15 receiver last year. Zay Jones is probably a top 5 third option when it comes to receivers in the NFL. Evan Ingram had the best season of his career and was arguably the most reliable red zone threat for Trevor Lawrence last year. Mm-hmm. Travis Etienne was an extremely good runner for them last year. Their O-line is solid between Cam Robinson and Brandon Scherf and a few other guys in there. Josh Allen, one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. Trayvon Walker should only get better.
He's a project.
I'm sorry, but it would not shock me if we're in February, the day before the Super Bowl, and Trevor Lawrence is holding up an MVP trophy.
Wow.
Look at how bad this division is. Look at the weapons and what the new coaching staff has done for Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, there's a guy named Patrick Mahomes who every year, if you're not betting on him to win MVP, you're probably making a donation. Yeah, I'll be honest.
It's Jokic.
He's the best quarterback in the NFL. It's not even.
You're probably making a donation.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. LeBron and MJ and Tom Brady and guys like those don't win every MVP in their sport every year. And it's because you need new storylines and stuff for media to talk about. But if this Jags team plays their potential, wins their division games like they absolutely should as the hands-down best team in this division, and takes care of business elsewhere, Trevor Lawrence could easily put up an MVP caliber season. Mm-hmm. And to be totally honest, I'm pretty close, even though Herbert might have all the tools and he's a better passer and he's a perfect pro-style QB. I might be close to taking Trevor Lawrence over Justin Herbert, which people are going to hate me for saying that. But Trevor Lawrence has no excuses this season.
I see a lot of similarities in the two.
I mean, they're the same draft class. They got drafted right next to each other.
Yeah.
But it would not shock me if they're a 13-4, 12-5, 2 seed, 1 seed, and Trevor Lawrence has put up an MVP type season. I think this team has all the tools to be one of the best teams in the NFL. And I'll tell you what, Jacksonville fans have been waiting for this for a long, long time.
And thank the Lord that Urban Meyer is gone. Last year was such a 180 opposite from the year before, wasn't it?
A little quick hitter for you. Who's a worse coach, Urban Meyer or Nathaniel Hackett?
I think Urban Meyer might be worse.
Probably. I think Hackett survived for a few games longer than Urban Meyer did.
Yeah, so I mean,
let me throw Hugh Jackson in the mix. Change your mind.
Who was it? Who was the one Browns coach? Was it Mike Pettin or Greg Pettin? Or...
Oh, I could rattle them all off. We got obviously Kevin Stefanski right now.
Yes.
Before him, Freddie Kitchens.
Yes. Oh
Before
my
him,
God.
Hugh Jackson.
Oh my
Before
God.
Hugh, it was who was before Hugh?
For Hugh Jackson?
Yeah.
Was it our D coordinator?
Who are you talking about?
Our D coordinator right now. Wasn't he our coach at one point? Or
Oh, no. Jim Schwartz was never a coach. Jim Schwartz was the coach of the Lions.
Lions head coach. Yeah.
Anyways, I don't remember who it was, but before Hugh, obviously, you had Romeo Cornell, Pat Shermer, Rod Jasinski, Mike Patton. Who
Mike
else?
Patton. Greg Williams.
Greg Williams for, like, the latter half of the season. Yeah, it was Mike Patton before him.
Eric
Mangini. Forgot about him. Terry Rubisky, Butch Davis, Chris Palmer, and of course,
We just missed Bill.
Of course, Bill Belichick.
We missed Bill by about a decade.
Well,
but-
the problem is we moved when Bill was the head coach.
Yes.
So we didn't really fire him. We just moved.
Oh my God, Hugh Jackson, 336-1 regular season record.
Somebody leave a comment. Look it up. Does anybody have a worse all-time winning percentage as an NFL head coach than Hubert Jackson?
3-36.
Yeah.
My question is why did we fire him earlier? Why did it take that long?
I mean, look at that roster, though. What was it, 2016 we went?
Yeah.
0-16?
Why did that take?
2016 Browns
Why did it
roster.
I mean, it's just we were so directionless. Wasn't it like the Deshaun Kaiser
It was
days?
bad. So we went in... Okay. So in his first season, we went 1-15.
Oh my God.
And then 2017, 0-16.
That's so embarrassing.
We
man.
had
That's so
Deshaun
embarrassing.
Kaiser, Isaiah Crowell, Corey Coleman, Ricardo Lewis, and Randall Delfer.
That I remember the year prior when we got that win, and it was the game-winning field goal against the Chargers, and the city of Cleveland acted as if we won the
I'll
Super
tell you
Bowl.
what was crazier. I went to the game the year after our first win in like 1,000 days. We played the Jets on Thursday Night Football at the stadium. It was the most surreal experience I've ever had. It was crazy. I thought the city was going to burn.
It's just like one win in 2 seasons. That's terrible.
I think the only people from this roster who are still in the NFL are Joe Bitonio, J.C. Treader, Kevin Zeitler, Myles Garrett, Christian Kirksey, and Jabril Peppers.
Oh my God. That was bad.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so now next, staying on our football topic, but moving into another topic, we're going to be doing a rankings of wide receivers. Now we're going to do our usual 10-10, 9-9, 8-8, 7-7. So yeah, this one I think there's definitely going to be a variety of different answers. So moving into it, I'll go first. I'll go with my first pick, starting at number 10. I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 10. Obviously, this is projecting for...
He was my 11.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple guys that fell in between 10, 11, 12. And then there's a little bit more of a drop-off. But I think Amon-Ra is just prone for another great year with this Lions team. I think he's going to be the guy for them, a kind of an underrated position, too, because he plays out of the slot, and I know people don't necessarily give slot guys the most credit, but I'm going with Amon-Ra.
Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Anyways, my number 10 is Garrett Wilson. I think he has probably the most room to move up the list just because, I mean, he had Zach Wilson, Mike White, and some guy who looked like Tim Tebow on Thursday Night Football throwing him the ball last year. Mm-hmm. I forget what that guy's name is. I'll have to look it up here.
Mike White?
No. They had some guy, when they played the Jags on Thursday Night Football, this guy wore number 15 and wore both gloves while he was passing. He looks just like Tim Tebow. I swear to God.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Oh, my God. He looks just like Tim Tebow. Anyways, Garrett Wilson had the worst quarterbacks of all time, and he still put up an elite rookie wide receiver season. So he's number 10 on my list with plenty of room to move up.
Chris
Trevler.
Oh,
Chris
my God.
Trevler looked just like Tim Tebow, I swear. It was crazy. And who could forget Joe Flacco? I forgot about
looking
him.
at this now, we were Joe Flacco's only win last year.
Correct.
Okay.
But number 9, go ahead.
My My number 9 was also Garrett Wilson.
Oh, okay.
As your number 10.
Okay.
So
I'm
covering our
interested to
bases.
see which one of my guys you didn't put on here.
I think he's going to have a great year. He's got Aaron Rodgers
sure.
now. I
think he could have like a 1,500-yard season.
He's got all the tools to be successful. It's just
Absolutely. Number 9, I got CeeDee Lamb. I think for his first 2 seasons when he was playing with Amari Cooper, there were questions about whether or not he could succeed as a number 1 wide receiver. But it doesn't really matter who's throwing him the ball. When Cooper Rush was in 2 seasons ago, when the oldest rookie of all time, Brandon Weeden, was throwing him the ball, he was still playing at an elite level. I think he's one of the best route runners in the NFL, too. Obviously, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, those guys are the elite of the elite. But I think he belongs in that conversation, too. So I got CeeDee Lamb there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving into my number 8. Arguably could have been a little bit higher. I'm going with Terry McLaurin. I just think his quarterback and just the Commanders' offense is automatically limiting towards him. I'm looking more so at projecting stats and things of that nature. Obviously, I think he's a fantastic receiver. I just think he's very limited with the situation he's in. But I just think Scary Terry is just a force to be reckoned with. Last year, he had an amazing year last year, but there were just some games, specifically as having him as a fantasy owner in the league Max and I were in, he wouldn't necessarily get the looks because all the defenses.
He played way better when Heineke was in.
Exactly, yeah. And when they had Wentz playing, Wentz just would not look at him. So
yeah. Those are Amon-Ra and Terry are both guys that I didn't have on my list. Now I'm really interested to see where we switched up. Number 8, I got Jalen Waddle. I mean, he put up stats that were better than 20 wide receiver ones last year, and he had Tyreek Hill ahead of him on the depth chart. I mean, Jalen Waddle is probably the second fastest player in the NFL, and the fastest is his teammate Tyreek Hill, who I just talked about. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy is a long bomb machine.
Oh, yeah.
When Tua is throwing him the ball, there's no one who can stop that offense.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jalen Waddle is probably the best wide receiver in his class from last year. Or not last year, but the year before. Was he in Jamar's class? He might have been in Jamar's class. I take that back. Not the second best in a very good wide receiver class.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you didn't have Jalen Waddle on your list then?
I didn't put him on my list just because there was a guy better than him on his team. So I just left him off my list for that reason.
Yeah, fair enough.
So now going into my number 7, previously mentioned CeeDee Lamb. I think he's personally underrated. I think he stepped into his role as that number 1 receiver very well last year when there was a lot of doubts after him being number 2 for a couple years. I just think he's so reliable. Obviously, he had that absolute monster of a game on Thanksgiving. Might be a little biased, listed my entire receiving core from last year in fantasy, but I just think CeeDee Lamb, it goes to show he's a great receiver for the Cowboys.
Sure. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Is this the guy that you didn't have on your list? Number 7, A.J. Brown?
We'll see.
A.J. Brown was, pound for pound, the strongest and most physical receiver in the league last year. I mean, I know people love to hype up DK Metcalf. It's been like that since he got drafted. But A.J. Brown completely transforms that Eagles offense. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs, and he turned into elite QB. Same thing happened with Burrow and Jamar Chase. But I don't think any receiver has elevated a young QB to the point that A.J. Brown did last year for Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jalen Hurts went from being a guy that people didn't even know if he could be a career starter in the NFL to second in MVP voting and leading his team to the Super Bowl. I mean, this guy went for 1,500 yards and over 10 touchdowns in his first season with a new team, and that's while having to share the ball with Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, Devonta Smith, elite in every sense of the term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, couldn't agree more. My number 6 is A.J. Brown.
Okay, there we go.
He was top 5 in yards in YAC, pretty much for receptions in the receiving.
Another thing about A.J. Brown, this is kind of a weird stat, but he led the NFL in contested catch rate. So if a ball was up in the air and it was like not when he wasn't open, he was catching more balls at a higher volume than anybody else in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big A.J. Brown guy.
Yeah. So I guess if you got A.J. Brown 6, that leads me into my number 6, Stephon Diggs. outside of him on that offense, Gabe Davis had a really good playoff game 2 seasons ago, and a lot of people expected him to be a very solid second option for them last year. He was kind of disappointing. Their run game isn't great. Dawson Knox has not been a reliable option for them. Obviously, they draft Dalton Kincaid this year, who may end up being a very good tight end, but Stephon Diggs is that offense, 100%. When he's not getting his targets and not making plays, they lose games. And it's because they don't really have much else to rely on. He's honestly not very fast for his position, yet he still manages to get open almost better than anybody else.
Oh, he's a great route runner.
Yeah,
great
one of the best.
Okay, so then, moving into my number 5. No bias involved in this pick at all. I'm going with Jamar Chase at number 5.
I have him at 5 as well.
Okay. Obviously he did not produce as well last year as his rookie year. Injuries were a very big thing. And then obviously just with having more attention on you, obviously is better. But I don't know. I mean, Jamar Chase is undoubtedly a top 5 wide receiver in my book, but I just would not put him in front of the other guys I have in front of him.
I think this might be the guy that you forgot about. Number 4, Cooper Kupp.
I left him off my list.
Yeah, you just because of injuries last season.
I don't know how he's going to be after a season-ending injury next year.
I don't know. It's hard for me not to have Cooper Kupp in my top 5 because the very last time we saw him play football consistently, he was setting records. He was scoring touchdowns at will, and he looked like the best pass catcher and route runner in the NFL. And guess what? At the end of the season, he was holding the Lombardi and a Super Bowl MVP in his hands. So I just couldn't not have Cooper Kupp on my list. And I get just because he didn't play much last year. That makes sense.
That's respectable. I really wasn't like I knew about him. It wasn't a complete slip up. I just really didn't know how to project for next year of what he was going to do.
For sure. No, that makes sense.
So then my number 4, Diggs. Max gave us the piece on Diggs. I think he's arguably top 2 route runner in the NFL. I know, obviously, specifically towards the end of the playoffs, there's some issues with him, and there's some drama and everything, sunshine and rainbows leading up until that point. But he gets the job done. He's unreal. Josh Allen's favorite target as well. So
thanks. I'm interested. Do we both have Justin Jefferson number 1?
We do.
So who do you have 2?
Devontae.
See, I have Tyreek, so I think this is where our debate lies.
The thing is I was gonna put Tyreek there, but touchdowns leader. 40-plus yard catches, almost receptions leader. He was the Raiders last year. He was the Raiders.
This is why, just because we were kind of projecting for this year, this is my basis for putting Tyreek above Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. Even when 2 was hurt, I still felt like Tyreek was producing at an elite level. And that's not to say Devontae...
No, you're right.
That's not to say Devontae wasn't doing that after Derek Carr was gone. I mean, I think he went for 2 touchdowns and almost 200 yards when Jared Stidham was throwing him the ball. But this is my main point. You have Jimmy Garoppolo, who
potentially
Jimmy Garoppolo, their projected starter, in his entire career with the 49ers, has never thrown to a receiver who's caught over 1,200 yards in a season. Believe it or not, Deebo Samuel never done it. And then Josh McDaniels, their head coach, think about his tenure with the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Who were the elite wide receivers of that Patriots era?
Welker, Amendola, Edelman.
And guess what? None of those guys were ever a high-volume, high-yardage type of receiver. Mm-hmm. They never went for over 1,200 yards in any season. Josh McCown was a coordinator. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's Jack McDaniels. My apologies. So for me, I look at it this way. You have a head coach who has a long sample size where he's proven he hasn't been able to produce elite receiving seasons. You have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a quarterback who's proven he's never been able to throw the ball downfield at a competent to an elite level and help elevate a receiver's game. Mm-hmm. And you have Devontae Adams, who is a 30-year-old receiver who isn't getting any younger. So I just think I'm a little more pessimistic with what they'll be able to help him do and help him contribute to their offense going into next year, because I just don't see the tools, whether it's coaching staff, other weapons, or QB play, to help him be the second best receiver in the NFL.
That's a really, really good argument.
And
really
with Tyreek, he played with Patrick Mahomes, was phenomenal. 1 season with Miami, everybody says, is he going to be able to produce? Is he going to be as good without Mahomes? And he proved it.
He did. My only reasoning was Devontae led all receivers in targets by like 80. He was the only one that they were doing.
Yeah,
and
I know
thing.
They don't have anybody else to throw to.
And I think that also led to obviously the 1,500-yard season and then also 14 touchdown season. His stats were crazy, but I think now I was shifting my focus more towards fantasy, which I shouldn't do, and I'm thinking more so receiver for their team because Devontae could go out there and have 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns next year.
And they still might go 6-11.
I really don't think it's going to change that much. So
no,
I think
absolutely.
you kind of swayed my opinions more. But yeah, that Justin Jefferson guy's pretty good.
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
I like how there's just no debate on whether or not he's the best receiver in the NFL.
He's oh my God.
Did you see somebody asked him recently whose top 5 QBs were in the NFL, and he didn't put Kirk Cousins on it, and then somebody replied to the tweet, and they were like, "Thank God, at least somebody's honest about Kirk Cousins."
Yeah, it's just like Kirk is amazing. It's just Jettis is. There's not a weakness there.
No,
there's not no weakness. There's not a weakness.
Top 5 hands, top 5 speed, maybe top 5 route running. He's elite in every sense.
There's no weakness.
0.
Oh my God, it's just. Okay, so that's good. You got anything else more you want to add on the receivers?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay,
I liked your list, and I understand not leaving Cooper Kupp on there just because he didn't play last season.
Yeah, I will say with these lists, I feel like I haven't been too far off of you.
No, I feel like we've pretty much been on the same page. To be totally honest.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so now moving into our last football topic for the day, we're going to be doing as mentioned on the previous episode, a draft of career backup quarterbacks. Now, I mean, I dug into some history a little bit, but I didn't go all the way back extremely far. So now, Max, you can go ahead and give your first pick because I
think I drafted first last time, so I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I was saying because I did first on the receiver rankings, but okay. Do you want to go from number 1 first, number 5?
Are we doing 5 picks each?
I would say, because we usually do
5 picks each. All right, fair enough.
Okay.
We'll go. Well, what do you mean?
So I'm saying
we can't claim the same QB, so just draft.
Oh, we just. My apologies. We just draft. Okay, so going with my first pick, I'm going with Nick Foles as mine.
I thought I could get it. I thought I could get him on the second way around.
I just his entire year filling in for MVP season Carson Wentz.
He's the only backup to ever win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's
I can remember.
It's unreal. Philly special. One of the more memorable Super Bowls I think within the last decade. That really was a good Super Bowl to watch. Realizing it now, I was a little sad for the Eagles losing the Super Bowl this year, but then I realized they got theirs a few years ago. So not as sad about that anymore. But definitely going with Nick Foles as my career number 1 backup.
Yeah. Mine, I think it's just like an iconic pick for at least people who grew up in our generation watching football. It's got to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, the Fitzmagic era with the Bucs was amazing. I think he gave some Jets teams a little bit of playoff hope at times too. His time with the Bills with Marshawn Lynch and I think C.J. Spiller played with him a little bit too. He even played with Terrell Owens for a little bit. I think he's hands down the most iconic journeyman QB of our generation.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. Okay, so yeah, with Fitzmagic gone now, I'm going with my next pick. I'm going with Derek Anderson. Now I know it's a little bit of a controversial pick because he was only a backup for 1 game, and that was the Romeo Crennel Browns when he benched Charlie Fry. He then came in, had a stellar season. He had the second most touchdowns thrown in Browns history in a single season, and then also led himself to a little Pro Bowl nomination as well. So, got to give a little bit of respect for a Browns quarterback here or there. So I'm going to go with Derek Anderson as my.
I don't hate the pick. I don't hate it at all. My next pick is going to be Case Keenum.
Oh, good one.
Career backup, but I don't think we've seen a guy like him just be like so mediocre for his entire career.
Yeah.
And then that one season, I think it was 2017 or 2018 with the Vikings.
Yeah.
They were one of the best offenses in the NFL. Him, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, Dalvin Cook. That team was really, really good. He was the guy who threw the ball in
Minneapolis Miracle. Yeah.
I forgot about Diggs. Diggs was on that team,
it was wide receiver 2 Diggs.
Yes.
And I remember the specific the skull chant he led when kneeing it down in that game. That was unreal.
I think he's just one of the guys on this list who has maybe the most moments out of anybody else.
I forget about the Case Keenum days. Okay. Going with what is my now third pick. I'm gonna go with Frank Reich, and that's my only old timer pick, just because I watched the Bills 30 for 30. Frank Reich obviously backing up Jim Kelly, who is Hall of Famer, insane career years. Jim Kelly goes down. Frank Reich steps in, and leads this team to a Super Bowl. Obviously, they didn't end up winning it, but I just think giving a nod to backup quarterback.
They lost 3 straight.
Yeah, getting a nod to, just a backup quarterback who leads them to the Super Bowl is good. So
no, I like it. My next pick is going to be a guy who's a backup for most of his career, and as of recently, he's resurged himself as one of the more solid QBs in the NFL. And you can throw a flag on the play if you don't like this pick, but I'm taking Geno Smith.
Oh,
Geno Smith is a backup for his entire career.
Okay.
Tarnished by the New York media. I think he even got punched in the face during rookie minicamp his rookie season. He was out for weeks because he had a broken nose. Geno Smith has entirely transformed his career. Geno Smith has the career of what every backup wants their career to pan out as. And guess what? The people in Seattle love him. He didn't write back.
Yep. Honestly, that's a great pick. Okay. So going with my next pick, I'm going to go with Chase Daniel.
I had him on my list.
I know it's a bad pick because he had that infamous slide when Mahomes got hurt against us in the playoffs that stopped us from going.
That was Chad Henne.
Never mind. So Chase Daniel, that's well deserved then. Chase Daniel, career backup. I think he only played like 3-4 games, and he acquired like over $50 million through his entire NFL career.
Is being a backup QB the best job to have in America?
Yes.
It actually might be.
Yes.
You basically do nothing. You sit around, hold a clipboard, put a headset on, and throw on a hat, and you sit your ass on the sidelines for 60 minutes of football.
And here's also the thing. You get to mess around in practice all week and try to emulate the quarterback you're facing for that week. So you don't even have to play to the best of your ability. You literally just have to try to emulate that quarterback pretty well, which in turn means you don't even really have to try. No. So it's just like it's such a funny it's one of the best jobs. It has to be.
Yeah. My next pick, I think I got to take Josh McCown. I think one of the most iconic moments of watching football in my childhood is seeing Josh McCown dive from 7 yards away and get helicoptered by a jet safety as he fumbles into the end zone. It was basically the epitome of what was one of the worst Brown seasons of all time.
Yes.
He's played for, I think, 9 teams. The picture of all his kids and his wife wearing every single jersey that he's ever had is also hilarious.
That's great.
Josh McCown's just another one of those iconic journeymen, so I couldn't leave him off the list.
Oh, that's so good. That's such a good pick. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think he played for 12 total teams it was.
12, more than I thought.
Which is great. Okay, so going on to my last pick for the backups draft. It has to be said in this draft, Brian Hoyer. Have to go with Brian Hoyer, the fellow high school grad of Max and I, same alumni, same school. Hoyer, got his rings, spent his time behind time.
That actually leads me into my next pick. So I'm glad you say Brian
Hoyer. He was there for Tom when he needed him. If Tom needed a shoulder rub when he was going for all those championships, I'm sure he was there for him. So
okay,
I'm going with Hoyer as my last pick.
Throw a flag on the play if you want, but is there any greater backup in the history of the NFL than the man who came in for his QB, who tore his ACL, and proceeded to win 6 Super Bowls for their franchise?
Oh, my God.
Can I take Tom Brady?
Oh.
Think about it. He was a backup, but he came in that same season and wins them Super Bowl. Even if I just get that one season.
Didn't Rodgers do the same?
Yeah, but it was different. Rodgers started after Brett Favre left.
Okay.
Take
Tom Brady.
I get Tom Brady.
Take Tom Brady for the sake of it because it'll make the post will look great.
Think
like
about
that.
it. Think about it. He's the greatest backup of all time. He changed their franchise.
Technically, I mean, hopefully we'll throw a Jordan Love in there too because he came in now after Rodgers got hurt.
But I think Brady's story is different because he literally came in and won a Super Bowl in the same season.
It is
3 MVPs,
that's
6
for
Super
sure.
Bowls.
That's for sure. Okay, so then, that's rounding
I
out
think that's all for our journeyman QB draft.
Yeah,
our backup QB.
Yeah,
I should say.
Great draft. A lot of football this episode. So now, rounding us off with our last sports topic today, before something good, something bad. We're going to be looking just at a little quick overview of the MLB. With the trade deadline coming up, we're not going to be looking specifically at how teams are doing and whatnot. We're just going to talk about some buyers and sellers, some players we think we're going to be on the move, some teams that need some fits. So the deadline's obviously August 1st, and we just had All-Star Weekend. So now I think moving into my first team that I think is going to be major sellers this upcoming offseason, that's going to be the White Sox. So, obviously, the White Sox have just not gone to plan. I honestly think they were better last year where they had crazy old man La Russa than they do this year with their new manager. There's a little bit more problems there. Luis Roberts, amazing. But I'm going to go with my first couple guys I think is Giolito would be the first one who I think could get traded. Obviously, to a contender, could be a fit. His free agent, his contract's up this year anyways. I don't know if they really want to re-sign him. Any contender could be in use of him. Then next, I would say Yasmani Grandal. He's carrying $18 million on his last year, so they're not going to probably re-sign him. He's on the upwards of 40, going up on 40. So I mean, any contender I think could use him catcher-wise. Maybe the Padres could use him, looking for some more consistent catching. I know Gary Sanchez has been fairly well for them. And then obviously my last one would be Tim Anderson. I mean, I don't know if you're really going to give up on him after being the batting average champ in years prior, but I just something's not right with Tim. I don't think he wants to be there. I just think mutually it's time for them to give up on trying to work together.
He looks like he hates it.
Yeah, and he really just is not looking like himself. He's not having fun. Tim Anderson was one of my favorite players as of about five or so years ago when he first got in the league. Just because of his, emotion and how he played, just none of that is there anymore. He just doesn't look happy at all. So I think really looking for a new home for him could be good. I think there's probably several teams with middle infield position needs. Could be the Dodgers with Gavin Lux going down. Could put Tim Anderson at second because he's not the best fielder.
Tim Anderson doesn't look that great though either. I mean, he's just not like. He's honestly one of the biggest reasons they've been so disappointing, I feel like. So I'm not even sure what his value is at this point.
So, I just think from what's once been an extremely productive shortstop who all-stars and everything, and it wasn't even that long ago, would just provide some value to another team. Next, I just have one name down for this team. I have the Yankees, and obviously with Gleyber Torres. Don't necessarily know what they're going to do with him. I know a lot of the fans want to re-sign him. I think he could be fit because they obviously have Oswaldo Peraza, who's up in the minors, who people want to replace Volpe, but that's not going to be the case, so it's just going to be Peraza and Volpe. And then obviously Oswaldo Cabrera too. You have Oswald Peraza and Oswaldo Cabrera, so I could see them maybe moving on from Gleyber, but then maybe not. Like I said, the Dodgers could use a middle infielder, and then obviously the Mariners could also be in a big use if they want to make a push because I believe they took 9 of their last 10 before the All-Star break. So the Mariners could be in use of a second baseman because Colton Wong has not been good for them this year. I could definitely see that. The A's could be the A's in A's fashion and get rid of Brent Rooker, their All-Star this year. He's obviously played himself really well into a good spot and obviously built up some of his value. I could see a team like the Cleveland Guardians being into contention for him as well. I think corner outfield is a big position need, and I think Brent Rooker could provide some really good pop for an outfielder that would fit the Guardians. But then also just any team that would be in need of a corner outfield. I could also see him going to the Yankees, of course, because they have infinite amounts of money. Next team I have is the Rockies. CJ Crone. Obviously, I know he's injured. I don't really know what value you'd get for him. The Rockies are never sellers. They never sell players or really make any trades in the first place. So I could maybe see CJ Crone end up staying with them, but I could see him being sent to a team that would need a first baseman of value. Maybe they could get Crone for cheap to the Astros because Abreu hasn't been. I know he's been better, but could also be Philadelphia Phillies because Rhys Hoskins is down for the year. Could also see him going to the Guardians because maybe the Bell and Naylor platoon's not great. Whatever it may be, I think Crone would be the only one in which they would want to sell, even though they're not going to be anything this year. I just have two teams left. Tigers, I could see Eduardo Rodriguez. I know he's been injured for better half of the year. Was in all-star form when they had him, and he played very well against teams this year when he was pitching. So, I mean, I think Eduardo, just any team that would need pitching. And then finally, I'm going to go, or not finally, but I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I think will be the biggest sellers at this deadline. Their GM straight up came out and said that they're going to be trading players before this deadline.
It's been such a strange year for them, I feel like.
I mean, it's the pitching's a big.
It's just so bad, dude.
The pitching's been really bad for them too. Jordan Montgomery, I think it could be a guy even though he's in his 30s. Paul DeYoung, he's older. Lars Nootbaar, Tyler O'Neill. I was even very stupidly seeing rumors about Paul Goldschmidt possibly getting on the trade block, which they should not do. Which I think keeping Goldschmidt and Arenado at the corners is kind of good for you. Maybe you look into Jordan Walker. I don't know, because I know there's been some talks because he hasn't necessarily been great. And then the final team I have for being a seller is the Cleveland Guardians. Something's not necessarily pushing with them. Just straightly put, I mean, they're battling about 500 or so. Names I'd like to see go are Ahmed Rosario or Shane Bieber. I know the Orioles were possibly in need of a Shane Bieber type player. I was seeing Ahmed Rosario was actually a top two, between him and Gleyber Torres were the top two commodities at the deadline for a middle infielder. So,
yeah, I mean,
crossing my fingers.
It's kind of a dry market as far as middle infielders go as well.
Yeah, so crossing my fingers with that as well. Maybe the Dodgers will bless us with their money. Who knows or prospects? Who know what it'll be? But I mean, yeah, Guardians need an outfielder. Just a lot that they need to get done. So
some pop.
Yeah, some pop would definitely be nice. But we'll go into some more depth about the MLB more towards the August 1st deadline. But obviously, just a few weeks out, I wanted to just give a little bit of an overview because there could be some deals coming up in the next
as
few
we
weeks.
get closer, I think there'll also be more information for us to kind of look at. See where teams are at, who's looking to buy, who's looking to sell. Yeah,
that's for sure. So, so that's running off our sports topic. Now moving into our last and final topic, fan favorite, something good, something bad. So starting us off, Max, you want to go first?
Yeah. Something good. Mm-hmm. Finally got the golf game back on track.
Yes, you did.
Outing here.
Yes, you did.
Didn't put up the type of abysmal performances I've been having as of late, so that was good to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then something bad, my girlfriend got scammed on Facebook Marketplace today, so that was pretty bad.
Yes.
We're out a couple $100 there, but we're going to rally, and we know not to send random people our information from now on.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So then
For sure.
for my something good, I will say just productivity and just working out and stuff. I found going back to the gym, I went for a run for the first time in a while today. So yeah, I've just been feeling really good about that. Something bad, I will say, I would just say cloudy and muggy weather. I would just say
the weather has sucked It sucked lately.
Yeah, hopefully just looking for some more clear skies and a little bit more of a breeze and cooler day. So we're looking forward to that too. And then along with that, we're looking forward to the next couple of episodes recording on the setup. So thank you all for listening to episode 10. We made it to double digits. Appreciate those who listen in with us every episode. Max, you got anything else to add?
That's about it. I think it was a good episode today.
Yeah. Nevertheless, a good episode. We'll just keep on pushing and staying with it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.